Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala, and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my husband, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wildhorse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. The purpose of this podcast is to share real-life stories that hopefully are relatable to other crafters who might be interested in horses. The format of this podcast starts with a walk to the barn to feed the horses, catch up on the week, share my knitting projects, and other interests like bicycling or hiking. I also talk about vegetable gardening and cooking. I hope you bring your favorite beverage and a fun, crafty project to work on. Enjoy! Good morning, friends. It is Friday, June 12th, 2026. Welcome. I have a lot to share with you today, a lot of knitting content, which is awesome. I went to the Fiber Fusion Northwest event last weekend, and as the title of this episode indicates, I broke my budget and added a lot more yarn to my stash that I really don't need, but what can you do, right? I took a couple classes. One was challenging for me. It wasn't a knitting class. It was a hand sewing class, and I don't really do that, but it was a visible mending. So I want to show you my little sample, and I have some inspiration. Although it's intimidating, I will admit. I also took a 2-handed stranded colorwork knitting class, which I already knew how to do, but I stopped doing that particular technique. It's a Farrell technique, and I will talk about that more in the knitting segment. It was almost a relief to have permission to knit that way. And I don't know why I stopped. Probably because somebody told me there were better ways to do it. Well, I'm at the barn. Let me see if I can you see O? Good morning, O. Bragi's in his stall eating breakfast. So I'm going to get to feeding, and I'll catch you up on the horsemanship and the other things during the week, and lots of knitting. Hello, friends. Welcome to the knitting and catch-up part of this podcast. And we always start with, what am I wearing? I am wearing the Bonny tank. It is a pattern by TinCan Knits. Stand up for you. It's this just lovely lace panel with kind of a very relaxed neckline, and it is sleeveless. I made it out of a lace weight yarn, and the bottom, which is quite long, is fairly unfinished. There's no ribbing or anything like that on it. So it's a nice summer top. It's beginning to feel like summer during the day, but the morning you'll notice that I had a stocking cap on because it is still in the 40s. I think yesterday it was 44 degrees when I went out to feed, and this morning it was probably 48-ish. So not quite bare arms weather until the afternoon. It's going to get up to about 70 degrees today, and then it's supposed to get quite warm. You may have heard that the World Cup soccer, FIFA, FIFA, Federal International Football Association. So there are several games starting in Seattle on Monday, and it's supposed to get quite warm. And some people who are coming from out of town will probably be used to that. We are not, because it's like 40 and 50 degrees overnight. I hope you have a project to work on and something nice to drink. I'm working on my second cup of tea. Let's get into the project, shall we? And then I will talk about the stuff that I've got and the classes that I learned from Fiber Fusion Northwest. And then we'll get on with the rest of the day. I need to pull my chair so you can see the bag from Fiber Fusion right here that I set on top. So let's start with the sock arms cardigan. This is in a bag made by my husband with his industrial sewing machine, a belt as handles, and it is this kind of wool felt line. The saga of the sock arms cardigan. So I've been using stash yarn, and I didn't have quite enough of this main color. So I ordered some. It's Knit Picks Gloss, which is a silk merino blend. And I found that the more recent colors were a bit different. Even though it's commercially dyed yarn, they were a bit different. And there was a significant and very noticeable line where I had changed colors. In fact, I think you can still see it somewhat in the light. But what I did is I obviously ripped it out. And I think I have a picture of that. I ripped it out all the way up to the join and the armpits. This is supposed to be a cardigan, by the way, but I joined in the round because I didn't want to do all that purling. This sleeve, the sleeves are made from Fingering Weight, Freckled Whimsey, Jeepers Creepers colorway. So now I'm just knitting on the body. I'm doing helical knitting to blend the two yarns. So still have to figure out what I want to do with the ribbing around the neck. I have talked about maybe alternating between this main color and the sock arms color. I think that might be kind of cool. And I do have some sock arms colorway left. The pattern is in this book called Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn. I have knit a couple others, so I've knit this one twice. One of them went in the donation box, and then this one, Bright Axis Tee. So I've gotten a lot of use. I plan on knitting some mittens, maybe these mittens out of some leftover Christmas colorway yarn that I have. So this is the amount of contrast color that I have left. So that is that project. Ripping back, so the way I did this is that because I had bound off the bottom edge, and it's a pain to frog from the bottom edge. So what I did is I just threaded my needles where I wanted to start back from. And I just picked up every single right leg stitch from here, went all the way around, and then I just cut a couple rows below it. And then I ripped it out and got a good ball of yarn. And so these are the two, and you can see the color difference. This is the newer color, so just a little bit brighter blue than this one. That is that project. So what else do I have going on? Let's talk about, I'll talk about work a little bit. So I did do some bust knitting. It's in this bag made by my mom. This is the first project bag she ever made me. It's very nice. I love the dragonfly motif on the fabric. It's lined. It has a zipper. It has a pocket on the inside and a strap. that I could potentially attach it to something. Not that I have. It's actually quite warm up here. I'm upstairs, and I even left the window open last night, and it cooled down a lot downstairs, but it is still kind of toasty up here. So I will wear this top as intended. These are the Lemontop socks, a pattern by K.F. Jones, and I am still working on the second sock out of Stealth Strapping Yard by Freckled Whimsey, Phoenix Tears. Let me show you the first sock. So generally what happens, I get 2 of the, I think it's 8 rows, pattern repeats done per bus ride. So I only rode the bus on Monday. Yesterday, I go in on Thursdays. I didn't feel that good yesterday morning, so I decided to stay home, and I'm glad I did. Here's the first sock. This is a contrast color, so it's got kind of a nifty swirl pattern that shows up okay with the self-striping yarn. I expected it to show up better, but it shows up really nicely in a solid yarn, a light colored yarn, and then it's a heel flap and gusset. So that is that project. So next week, sorry, I just finished breakfast and I have the hiccups. That often happens to me if I start talking, right, shortly after I eat. Note to self, more self-care needed. I forgot what I was going to say about, next week. Next week I'm riding the bus on Monday, and then I have Thursday off because next Friday is Juneteenth, which means that I get to take my holiday on Thursday. So most of the counties in Washington State celebrate Juneteenth. Interestingly, the state does not celebrate it. So I'm not really sure. Well, I mean, I think they celebrate it. They just don't have paid time off for that. Okay, what else is going on here? So I have this project that have been working on. This is in a bag, also made by my mom. Drawstring. I complained once about getting yarn stuck in the zipper. And so she's made me drawstring bags ever since, which I love. And this is quilted, lined. It's beautiful. And this is the Staffin Lite. It's a Staffin Lite tank, and it's in DK weight. I'm attempting to show you the front, which I have marked with this little stitch marker. So I think where I left last time, I had finished the left one of the shoulder thingies, and I joined in the round and then am carrying on. So it's kind of a drop shoulder in the back, meaning that the shoulder is like here, the shoulder seam. So there's no seam sitting right on top of the shoulder, which is kind of nice. So it's a really cool pattern. It's kind of this diamond rib texture pattern. There's supposed to be baubles where I have did the substitute lace because I'm not a fan of baubles. So I think this is going to be great. This is made out of the same yarn that I crocheted my wedding shawl. It is a merino cashmere. It's on a cone. The pattern's by Clow. So I still have quite a bit of yarn left, and I have one more cone. So I may get another top out of this yarn, which, is great. So that's where that is. The texture pattern, show you the front again, is a 36 row repeat, and I expect to do that twice on the body. And I'm just about done with the ribbing, so that's 15 rows of ribbing, and then I start the kind of a little transition, the little lace section, the diamond texture, and then another lace section, and then I start over. So that's where that is. I would like to have this done by the end of June because it is a part of a knit along, with the Love and Stitches membership. But we'll see. We'll see if that's what actually happens. And something else I've been working on occasionally is in this bag, also made by my mom. This one is a drawstring bag. It's not lined, but it has this nifty sleeve for the drawstring. And I am making socks out of this book. I'm making the surf wax socks, also out of a self-striping yarn. So this is what the texture looks like. I see there's a nifty colorwork pattern on the, there's a couple nifty colorwork patterns on this, so that I may have to investigate. So I am on the second sock. I have done the heel turn. I haven't talked about needle sizes. So I used Chowgu red lace. I think the sock arm sweater is a US size 4. The bust socks are a US size 0. The Staffin Lite is a US size 6. And these are a, I want to say a US size 1.5 maybe, or I want to say they're 2.25 millimeters. So here's the sock. I could show it top down, shouldn't I? And these are 9-inch circulars. They're the mini twists, and they're an interchangeable set. I don't remember the name of this colorway. It could have been Double Doors Army, possibly. One of the Freckled Whimsey Harry Potter colorways. So this is how it's turning out. And I try to do like one pattern repeat. So I will have about 8 pattern repeats. The pattern is a 7-row stitch pattern. So I will, so hopefully what I would like to get done, well, let me talk about that in a second. Let me show you the next pattern, or the next project that I am working on, that I would like to get done maybe this weekend. And I think if I get knitting time, it's supposed to be really nice. So sometimes it's hard to stay inside and knit. So that is the Joyful Colorwork, and I am knitting that pattern that's on the front. The hard part for me is that these all have 3 colors. The cats all have 3 colors, and I don't find that particularly relaxing. I find that a little difficult to manage. I have one sock done. I am on the 3rd kitty of the foot, and is that right? Yes, I am on the 3rd kitty of the foot, and I am going to do 4 kitties and then do the toe. So that's why I expect to have this done this weekend. So it turns out fine, but I have to be in a certain frame of mind in order to knit it. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Fair Isle technique. So turn the sock inside out, and there's pretty long floats. If you can see that. I don't love that. I don't like the look particularly, and I don't necessarily like the feel. So after I took the Fair Isle class, I started doing the Fair Isle technique, which is capturing the floats about every stitch. It's a lot tidier, and I think it's you're not going to get toes caught in the sock. I am not sure if that is going to change the way it feels. This was just like a total practice sock. So all of this yarn is leftover yarn. The main color is a West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, and everything else are these really small bits. And in fact, the kitty details are sometimes just like 20 yards. So not a whole lot. I don't know if it's exactly 20 yards, but it's, kind of a long, might not even be that, quite honestly. I'll see if I have an example in my little scrap bag of how little I need for the little kitty details. So this is an example. I will be able to use that for kitty details, the eyes, nose, and whisker. Or this is a little bit bigger piece. Whatever is left, and sorry, I have a hair in there. Whatever is left of that, I'll put in my magic knot ball. If there's enough, if there's not, it's gonna just go in the trash. So that is going to be my focus project this weekend. So I think priority-wise, it's going to be these socks and my Staffin Lite, since that is part of a knit along the ends this month. I don't know why I get so, you know, knit alongs. I think there's always prizes, which is fun. I mean, it's fun if you win something. I did the Andrea Mowry knit along. That was March through May, and I knit the Traveler. So you would see that if you look at the show notes or watch the podcasts in between March through May. So there were some great prizes, and I didn't win anything. I finished the knit along, so I have a sweater that is too warm to wear right now, but I will love having it this fall and winter. What else do I have? Oh, I have a new cast on. So I was convinced that I was going to whip through socks since I was commuting. So I decided to cast on another pair of socks, and this is the prototype bag that my husband made when he was trying to figure out how to make the bigger project bag. This pattern is by Sofia's Tales, so Sofia Carlson, I believe her name is. She's a Swedish knitwear designer, and I knit her mystery sock along quite a few years ago. I apparently didn't make a project page for that. But I decided to cast on that again because it's pretty easy knitting. So this is something else that I am going to share. Something I learned in the Fair Isle class, and I'll show you my sample here. So I'm just on the ribbing right now, and honestly, I don't know much about this yarn, where it came from. It doesn't look like it's a repurposed yarn. Oh, I remember what this is from. This is actually a magic knot ball, and I did find a knot in it, and I was wondering, I thought, that's strange. This is from, I was knitting it's a pair of long over-the-knee socks, colorwork socks from Anne Budd, and I have the book on my shelf, although it's like Master Sock Class or something like that. That's the name of the book. So anyway, the socks ended up being too big. So I ripped it out. It was a cool pattern, and so that's why this is this way. So it's going to make a very interesting pair of socks, probably not matching. All of this was scrap yarn. I recognize a lot of these scraps now that I am looking at it. Okay, this is the contrast color that it doesn't look like it's in there. This is, this is Trilogy Yarns. I got this at Fiberfest Northwest last year. And in fact, I think I won this yarn. So that is the little pop of color. So originally I cast this on and I was going to do like a 2-stripe pop of color. But then I learned this nifty technique where you do a long tail cast on, but you hold, so this will be enough for the second sock. You hold your main color together, just like this much with this, and you can do a slip knot with both strands of yarn and just drop it off at the end. I don't use a slip knot. I just like wrap it over and then kind of keep track of it. And then when I'm done casting on, I just drop off the double. But what you get, so you don't have to measure out, like we do. You just start with a tail that's long, and you put your pop of color on your thumb, and then your main color on your forefinger. That's not the way it really looks when you're casting on. It's more like this, but you put and the needles in your right hand, and the pop of color goes on your thumb, and then your main color, and you get this nifty little contrast thing. So I thought that was really cool. So I ripped this out and started over just a couple days ago. And I'm, like I said, I'm still working on the rib. I'm doing 1x1 rib, and then I will start the main pattern, which I believe is a broken rib pattern, if I remember right. So all that to say, easy bust knitting. The stitch marker is one I got last year at Fiber Fusion. So, which brings me to Fiber Fusion and all the goodies that I broke my budget with in this bag. So you get a free bag. Even though there's no entry fee, you still get this bag, which is kind of cool. And it turns out it's necessary. I mean, I went in there with like a certain amount. I brought cash with me. It's like, okay, I'm just going to spend this cash, and then I'm not going to buy anymore. That went out the window. And of course, everyone takes credit cards. So let me talk about the classes. So on Saturday, I had a Sashiko class, and we got this kit with a needle, a finger thimble, some Sashiko thread, some instructions, some fabric. So it goes like that. So the butt of your needle goes there, and some instructions. So let me show you what I made. And Sashiko, you use a running stitch, which I always thought was cheating in. So here's my needle. I can put this on the floor. I always thought running stitch was cheating in sewing, but actually that's how you do the Sashiko type stitch. So we got this fabric. We got a couple templates. I got the kind of circular one, and I just drew here. Oh, we got a fabric pen that is heat. What do you call it? Heat something, where when you iron it, or maybe you wash it in warm water. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not a sewist. It disappears. Anyway, here is my first attempt. So I made this grid. It's hard to see because I got white thread. And then here's the second attempt. This one was more freeform because maybe you can see it better on the back side. Yeah, that looks like maybe a little bit better. Get that out of the way. So I was able to draw a grid with the black pen, which you can kind of see, and you can kind of see here. But when I went to draw the grid on this fabric, you couldn't see it. So I just freeformed. So that's what it kind of looks like. The instructor had this cool jacket that she had repaired, and she did the collar in Sashiko, and I think a pocket in Sashiko. So it's kind of collaging with needle and thread. And I have a couple shirts, that I would like to repair, and I may end up making a patch out of this. So we'll see. This isn't big enough for a collar. But all hand sewn. I don't have a sewing machine. That's Randy's department. So I'm excited about that. So that was that. Here's what there's all kinds of grids. And that's the one that I got in my packet. So super fun. And something else for me to spend some crafting time with. Let me talk about the second class. I did a little shopping on the first day, Saturday, but I didn't really do any shopping until the second day, because I got there kind of late, where I only had just a little bit of time before I had to sign into my class. So I just made a quick round tour the booths and then went to my class. So, okay. The second project. So this was the Fair Isle one, and the designer is Lisa Ellis Designs. So she has patterns on Ravelry that if you are interested in these, she has, let's think, one of the patterns she gave us is it has hat, sock, and cowl, and a maybe mitten too. I can't. Yeah, well, fingerless mitts. And I feel like there was a cowl in one of these. So she gave us several patterns. And the one that we worked on is a hat. It's called the Andean hat. So she just gave us a printout, a black and white printout, and then she sent us each the Ravelry pattern to our Ravelry library. So this was all scrap or leftover yarn. It's worsted weight, and this is the cast on edge right here. So this is using the gray as the pop of color, and then this cream color. And I only knit a couple rows of rib, and then we got started on the color work. And this is what it looks like. It's very neat and tidy. And this is what I accomplished. These are US size 7s, by the way. This must be my beginning of round right here. And this is what the color work looks like. So this can also serve as a provisional cast on. So what I may do is finish the hat and then use this as a provisional cast on and finish the ribbing. That's what I may do. And this could very much potentially be a gift, because US size 7 is probably going to be too big for me. I would have to use probably a US size 6 or maybe even a US size 5 for it to fit my head. But we'll see. So I just used a bunch of, some of this yarn was given to me by my friend who found like this whole basket, a tall basket with a lid, with a handmade needle carrier. I showed that in a couple episodes. And then this yarn that has a lot of cuts. So I started pulling from the inside on this. And this is some kind of commercial Lamb's Pride Superwash. This label actually goes to this charcoal heather colorway. And then this yarn, I have no idea what it is, or even if it is worsted weight. It could be bulky weight for all I know, or something like that. So that is that project that I am going to put. That's kind of a lower priority. I am thinking more about doing some charity knits. Whoops, I'm putting my toys away, not together. I have been thinking about doing some charity knits, and that's maybe what this hat will be if it doesn't fit me. These are not Randy's colors. Randy is more green, blue, gold, a typically warmer, warmer colors? I don't know. He's, before he went gray, he was definitely a redhead. He more looks like a blonde now because his hair is so gray. So anyway, he does tend to wear different colors than I do. That's probably enough to say about that. Okay, that is, I think, all the knitting projects. I did work a little bit on my 100 Acre Wood blanket, which is a mitered square blanket, but not really enough I didn't make enough progress to show. So let's talk about the week, because I have been going on. So let me look at my notes here. Fiber Fusion. Yes, broke my... I haven't... Gracious, I haven't showed you what I got. So one thing I got is this. It's a ruler and it has this little button thing in, and I have been wearing it constantly. Of course, I keep thinking it's a watch, so I look at the time, it's like, oh, that's not a watch. I bought a couple gifts that I've already put away. So one for my mom and one for my sister. So I'm not going to share those because sometimes they both watch my podcast or at least listen to them. So I'm not going to show those. But I've got more of these stitch markers. I love owls. But I will say, if my sister happens to be listening, that the motif on the thing that I got her is this bee. So this is the same maker who did the mushroom, the morel mushroom beginning of round marker I showed. I do have some crinkly things, so cover your ears. I got this mini set. Thinking of doing more colorwork socks since I'm now in love with Fair Isle knitting again. So this is from Sunny Day Fiber, a local yarn dyer out of, I believe, Portland or somewhere in Oregon. I got this main skein sock yarn from Trilogy Yarns. It's called Sour Apple. So I'm, the mini set and this may go together in a pair of socks. I'm not sure. Might as well show you the sweater quantity I bought. Also Trilogy yarn. What is this colorway? Glamorous. So, fingering weight. I love pink. I bought a lot of mystery fingering weight. I believe these are fingering weight. These are mystery. So they come in a package and they come with a coupon. I only got a $10 off coupon this year. Last year I got a $75 off coupon. So these are some of the minis that were in the mystery packages. So that could potentially, there's definitely some Christmassy things going on here. So potentially do that. Here is what the mystery skeins come in. Also Trilogy. Oh, no, sorry. This is a doodle. So this is by Pacific Knit Co., who does the doodles. These are DK minis, and you get a doodle with it. So these are the mini skeins that I got. Didn't know the color, but these are perfect. So pink, and then the doodle is, so they have a show doodle that everyone gets who purchases something, and then they have the mystery doodle. So, and the pattern that you get is for a cup cozy. I am thinking of making yarn cozies. So it's like a cup cozy, but with, does it have to have a bottom? It probably doesn't. So the idea is that if you do pull from the center, your skein collapses. So I am thinking of making a yarn cozy to kind of keep the yarn, the pull from center yarn organized. And using a doodle. What else do I have? Oh, I got a Pacific Knit Co. card deck. So I have the ocean one and I have the cat one. And now I have the Arctic. It shows backwards to me. I hope it's showing forward for you. What else? This is a sweater that I do have a pattern for. Also Pacific Knit Co. It's a doodle sweater. I am looking forward to using some scrap yarn from that. It's DK weight, so I may be able to use that extra cone of yarn of the cashmere merino in that neutral color for that, and then the yoke can be all these other colors. So we'll have to see about that. Fiber Fusion Northwest. And let's see, what else do I have? Oh, okay. I did buy some goat milk lotion that has some sort of natural sunscreen in it. Apparently raspberry leaf oil has a natural sunscreen. I don't know if that's true. I'll try it. So here's another, this is what the Trilogy Yarn Mystery minis come in, and this is DK weight, so I could use this for the doodle sweater, and then you get a coupon. So I got a bunch of these $3 off ones, but there's only one per, you can only use one of the coupons. So I was just having fun with these. So there's a DK weight one. Here's the first DK weight one. I usually buy fingering weight, but I accidentally got this one first. And then I thought, well, I will get more DK weight ones so that I can maybe do a doodle sweater. And okay, I just have two more things. Thanks for bearing with me. I'll talk about horses really quick here. So this one, not super excited about that color, but I'll make something out of it. You know, I could do the cup cozy out of this because, or not the cup cozy, the yarn cozy out of this, out of that one. And then this one, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? I don't know if these two things would go together. Not really. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I don't really care for DK weight socks, so yeah, I'll have to think about that. So that is it for everything in this for this festival. It's the only festival I'm going to this year, so hopefully I will keep my yarn budget under control. Okay, horse stuff really quick. My trainer did not come last week. She was not feeling well, so we skipped last week. So Bragi got the day off. I was going to schedule a vet appointment for Odin, but then I got a hay delivery, so I have to kind of balance that that budget of the hay delivery versus the cost of the vet coming out to do a lameness exam. Odin seems to be feeling a little bit better, so I thought he would be okay to wait until probably August for a lameness exam. I want to see if he continues to improve. I'm continuing to do some PT exercises with him. And I've been learning a lot about like rehab type exercises from Karen Rolfe, whose website is dressagenaturally.net. I have that resource in my show notes. Bragi has been working on keeping his focus on me. He's been a lot softer and just a lot less reactive. I think in part because he's less itchy, because I changed his allergy medicine to an over-the-counter Allertech that I can get from Costco. He seems to feel better, and I'm using a diaper rash cream on his itchy spots, and that seems to be helping keeping the bugs out of his business. So what else is going on? We had lots of rain, and then we had some sun. The garden is, I don't know, it's you know, these cold nights in the 40s kind of keep things a little bit subdued. So some of the seeds, zucchini and cucumbers and a squash seeds I planted a couple of weekends ago haven't sprouted yet, so I don't know whether I'm going to need to replant those. Maybe I will, and then I'll probably get a whole bunch. What else? Oh, harvested some garlic scapes that I will make into pesto, and I think that is it. My trainer's coming today, this afternoon. I have a PT appointment that I will need to leave in about 45 minutes. So just PT, I'm getting PT on my left knee. So you might remember, if you've been with me for a while, that about a year ago, I fell off Odin and dislocated my left shoulder after having tripped and fell and dislocating my right shoulder in January. So when I fell off Odin, I landed on my left side, which caused the dislocation. And you know, I spent all of last fall, summer and fall and winter, rehabbing this shoulder through PT. Well, earlier this, probably around December, I was like, you know, my left knee really hurts. So I went and got it checked out, and it probably is a result of that fall. So the body has priorities. You know, I ignored the knee while the shoulder was rehabbing. And so this should be my last appointment. So as long as I do my PT exercises, which involves a lot of hip flexor stretches, it doesn't bother me. So that's the good news. So that's the key. I mean, as we age, we need more self-care, and we need to take more time to make sure that our bodies have the mobility and we have the motion that we need to live out happy lives. And on that note, I wish you a fond farewell and I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Before I start knitting, I wanted to share this beautiful load of hay that I received on Wednesday. Should last me until about October.